Numbers don't lie, and when those numbers represent people, we must pay attention. 50% of sexual assault around the globe occurs to girls under the age of 18. In Kenya, 6% of the offenders are known to the girls. As we live out loud in this episode, we'd like to introduce you to Marylize Biubwa, whose experience is not about making you feel bad about the situation. It's all about making you think about what you can do to stop these offenses happening to young girls. Let's live out loud next. Hello and welcome to Sheila Lives Out Loud. My name is Sheila Mwanyega and it is a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for stopping by our channel. Remember to click subscribe and hit notifications so you never miss an episode of the show. And we are at the lovely Westwood Hotel, all set to live out loud, with a young lady who is a true inspiration. She has committed her life towards the sensitization and creation of awareness on gender-based violence, sexual and reproductive health matters, rape and education for young ladies in Kenya. Marylize Biubwa, how are you?
I am fine, thank you very much, and thank you for having me here.
It's so wonderful to finally be here with you. I've read about you, and it's just taking everything in me to not jump up and just hug you and not let you go forever. But thank you for making the time to be here. And we find ourselves here due to an unfortunate incident that happened years ago. But before we go back to that, how would you describe yourself to anybody who's looking and thinking, activist, okay?
I say two things, positive and happiness. Those are things that in life, at some point in my life, I really had to struggle to appreciate such kind of things because it was really hard for me to bring myself to a place where I can say, I am happy. I see positivity when I look at my life through, the tunnel. And for now, when I look at myself, people say accomplishment is a lot of things. You have to sort of be a household name. People have to talk about you left, right, and center. For me, I say I am happy because the experience, whatever I went through, could be unfortunate, but I also say it's fortunate because I am here today. I mean, I like dressing in white and people wonder why I like dressing in white. For me, it stands for something. It stands for coming from a place that that was not really what I loved, and I'm here today. And I like for the world to see through me that it's possible for one to be happy, for one to be positive, for one to see life through a scope that not many people would see it, because again, it's a world where people go through different things at different times.
The business of living is such that every day will present you with new opportunities and at the same time, new challenges.
Yes.
But let's go back to growing up. What was that like for you?
Growing up was really an experience. My dad was literally my everything. Anything I did, even when we'd be told, work hard, perform well in school, and then you'll get a gift. Even if my brother performs better than me in his class, I'd still get a better gift than he would. And I guess that's where our rivalry started, sort of, but it's a healthy kind of rivalry because he's the one person that I always miss the minute I'm away from. Like, growing up, life was an ultimate joy and happiness. Everything that a little girl would want, especially from the father, who, whenever I looked at my dad, he was like my hero. Everything that meant conquering the world was in him. So in him, I saw a strong pillar, someone to rely on, someone to count on my entire life. That was basically my childhood, and it was good. I promise you, growing up, before I was 10, life was good.
Life was good.
Yes.
At the age of 10, something happened to change everything. And I'd like you, as difficult as it is, put it on the table. Walk us through what happened.
It was a Sunday. Every other Sunday, as a little girl in any ideal family would wake up, go to church with her family members. Then, the rest of the events after church would always be basically to socialize, to see how neighbors are doing, to, just get in touch with the people around you. So this afternoon, I was in the house alone. My mom was not far per se. My brother, of course, being a small
Boys, they will
teenager,
go out. They're
he'd
like cows.
definitely be
Open
somewhere
the door
out
in the
there,
morning.
you know.
You can see him in the
So
evening.
I was like alone in the house, and at that point, my dad was not working around home, so he'd be away most of the time. So this uncle of mine comes in, and for me, it's a normal scenario. I mean,
May I interrupt and ask, was this in Nairobi or was this back home?
this was supposed to be in Nairobi, but it wasn't in Nairobi. We had traveled to my hometown.
Okay, all right.
So my uncle comes in, and he's someone, you see, when you go to your hometown, a lot of things happen. Like you see a lot of people. Some you get to know, some you don't get to know really well. But for this one, this was the kind of uncle that was introduced with a percentage of insisting, this is your uncle and all that. So it's someone you really know very well, and it's someone who comes to the house regularly. Like every other trip to my hometown would indicate clearly that this is someone I definitely see, someone who I definitely look forward to seeing. So for him coming to the house, there was nothing awkward for me or uneasy, although, kids who are brought up in Nairobi and stuff, you're always told, don't talk to strangers and stuff. So I had no reason to be alarmed because for me, he was not a stranger. Then he comes in, and for whatever reason or for the discipline that my dad instilled in us, when you see a visitor and you are watching whatever on TV, you have to allow them, take charge because you're a kid and you can't make everyone watch cartoon like you'd want them to. So I surrendered the remote to him as he asked where my parents were and everything, like how's the family doing and everything, to which I answered. And then he said he wanted to, have a glass of water or something. And I went to the kitchen, of course, to bring a glass of water, but he followed me to the kitchen. When he followed me, he said something that was unusual. It wasn't unusual because it was bad. At least at that age, I wouldn't know if it was bad or it was good. But it was unusual because from watching TV, from hearing people talk, when someone says you look sexy, it's not something that kids tell each other. It's not something an adult would say to a kid. So for me, I felt it's uncomfortable on every level, but I decided not to pay attention to it because then in my head, I'm telling myself, this is someone that I'm supposed to trust, like I don't have anything to fear in this situation. So he says that, and I sort of not really ignore, I don't react to it because I'm a kid. How would I react to you look sexy statement? I was in, mostly when I'm in the house, I'm always in shorts. It's something that I've, grown up doing and everything. And at no given point had anyone told me it's wrong because I don't think it is wrong.
Right,
It's normal.
And you're
I
a
was
child.
I was just in the
Children
house.
wear shorts all the time.
Yeah, so I'm like there seated. I mean, he has followed me to the kitchen and he has said that, and I've ignored. Then I gave him, because when he came into the kitchen, I had already gotten the glass of water. So I handed it to him, and he took it and he started drinking the water. The only thing I was thinking at that point, apart from the awkwardness of you look sexy, was he decided to come for the water himself anyways. So I left him in the kitchen, but he was standing like literally in the middle of the door. So I couldn't like freely like walk out. So I sort of, given that I'm only 10, this little short girl, and my uncle is standing there, I just squeezed myself on one of his sides and just walked and went back to the living room. So when I was seated in the living room, I was not even, in my mind, I was not even thinking of what was going to happen next. For me, I was just thinking. So I just picked the remote and started flipping through the channels. And all of a sudden, this person comes to me, like he comes so close to me, and I'm like, what is going on? Like a literal, what is happening? And then he says nothing, but the events that follow. So he like grabs my hand. And of course, I'm only 10 at that point. What would I say other than resisting? So I'm like resisting, niache, niache. But he sort of grabbed my hands really hard. I even had some, like you could tell someone was forcing whatever they were forcing on me here. So like he grabbed my hands and then he pinned me down on the couch. And I kept saying, I am sorry, please let me go. And the whole time I said that, it's like I was talking to a wall or something. Everything.
Sorry. Here. Here, Marylize.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I was not supposed to cry, so...
No. You're supposed to do what feels right.
So every time I talked, it's like I was talking to a wall or something, like there was no human being. I kept saying, sorry, please let me go, and he wouldn't. And, for a 10-year-old, I could only resist so much because this is a grown-up. And at some point, I just gave up. I let go, I gave up. Everything that would involve trying not to feel the moment, trying not to be in that moment. And I just let go, and he did whatever he wanted to do with me. And after that, he left. He didn't say anything. He just dressed up and he left. And he walked out, and for a moment, I just sat there. I was like, it's almost like I couldn't think, because I think thinking was not something that I wanted to do, because then it was a pretty hard situation I was in. And I was seated on the couch for a while looking at myself, and the biggest question I kept asking was, what just happened? And then I'm looking at myself. I looked filthy, but most importantly, it felt filthy. In my head, it's something that I wouldn't want to go back and feel again in my entire life. So at this moment, I'm seated there. It's like my brain is numb or something. I can't coordinate anything. I'm just there. I'm this person. The only thing that goes into my head is filthy all through. So I left the sitting room and I went to the bathroom, and that must have been the longest shower I've ever taken, because staying in that shower was that bad moment, and then there's that something good that happens that makes you feel like this should be life, but it's not. The water coming on my body, pouring on my body, and that was the most...
Felt like you were cleaning away something.
I don't know if it was cleaning, or I just loved, it's like you have a problem and there's something that is really cutting it up so well that nobody feels like there's a problem. That's how it felt. It felt like
a good distraction.
Yes,
in that moment.
It just felt like, of course I'm done showering, but I just want to stay under that shower and just feel the water drops on my body. It felt like there's a moment of freshness even in a very bad situation, and I really wanted to stay there for so long, which I did. So I'm leaving the bathroom, going to my room, which is literally past, the door to the living room, and I see my mom, and then she shouts. When she shouted, I didn't answer, but she didn't follow up immediately. So I went into my room. I dressed up and was in my room for quite a while. I was crying at that point. The only thing I could do is cry, but most importantly, cry silently, because I didn't want to raise alarm. Then, because my mom was wondering what was happening, she came into my room, and then she asked again, while she was at the door, she asked again, why have you showered at this time? And then she came in and she found me crying. And when she asked me why I was crying, really, the only thing I could do at that point was tell her, but I don't know, it just felt okay to hug her and cry. That's the only thing I think I needed at that particular time. So I just went to her and I hugged her and I cried and I cried. And she kept telling me, like a typical mother, are you okay? Do you have a stomach ache? Is your head aching? What is wrong? Say something. She's getting a bit frantic and all that. And I'm silent but just crying. And she just held me, and she sat on my bed and she held me, my head on her laps, and I just cried until I couldn't cry anymore.
The ordeal of being raped was about to be compounded for Marylize when her family found out what had happened. We continue with her story in part 2.